enter Shikari and their sixth studio album, Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible. Sixth student album there from St. Albans in the United Kingdom of England. And it's quite the fascinating rise for Shikari. When you looking at the discography, starting on Take to the Skies and Common Dreads, are very to me, if you look at them or you listen to them, you would think that they are two cult releases or a cult following releases, and the band just sort of faded away once that sort of that kind of music sort of filtered away to electronica post-hardcore stuff that was really, really, really popular mid to late noughties. But the fact that they are now one of the biggest British bands going, they've adapted their very raucous electro hardcore sound into this very electro pop rocky sort of thing. And for me personally, I've listened to, I think the only album that I haven't listened to is the Minesweep. Somehow I completely missed it. But yeah, I just think it's really fascinating to look at the evolution of the sound, going from, again, that really, really intense electronic core to up into the Spark, where Spark felt like such a big gap between, stylistically between albums, because the Spark was very electro-poppy. A lot of the rock elements were pulled back, and for good or for worse, I thought when the Spark came out, I quite enjoyed it. For what it was, looking back on it, and I think, oh yeah, this song was great, and I listened to it again, I was like, ooh, maybe it's not quite as good as I remember, but there's still moments on it. I think I've got the complete opposite with A Flash for the Colour. I remember really not liking it when it first came out, and now it's potentially my favourite Shikari album. And yeah, for whatever reason, I completely missed the Minesweep. I think because at the time I hated Flash Flood so much, I just said I was done. And then for whatever reason, I changed my mind on Spark, of all albums. For Everything Is True and Nothing Is Possible, I kind of feel like it'd feel more natural sitting in between Flash Flood and the Spark. At the moment, I'd say a lot of this is going to be without the context of the Minesweep as well, but a lot of it is going from Flash Flood and Minesweep, where you've got, it's very alternative rock with the embers of their post-hardcore past creeping in every now and again, with a lot of electronica and a lot of dubstep and drum and bass and things like that. And then if they went from that into Nothing Is True, where it's very much sort of a half and half between the alternative rock and the electronic stuff, and then you go into Spark, which is very, very electronic, that feels like a more natural progression of the sound for what they look like they want to go to. I feel like they want to go a bit more electronica these days. But the way it looks now is going from Flash Flood and then Minesweep into the very electronica heavy Spark. And then when they saw that it was very 50-50 divide between people who hated it and loathed it, then we're like, let's bring it back a bit and then work our way back again with Nothing Is True. And they at least they haven't done a Suicide Silence and gone straight back to Minesweep or Flash Flood or even Common Dreads or something like that. One of the first things, so listen to the album, to this album, one of the things that really started getting me was the drums. It feels very electronic music bass drums, even though I don't know if he's using electronic drum kit or still using an acoustic one. But the vibes I kept getting off it, because the way the drums hit, it's not just a bang, it's a thump. It's a build before it's hit. It reminded me a lot of Sleep Token. And I know Sleep Token has got loads of modern pop influence in the music. So is that style of drumming just the norm for modern pop? Have I just completely missed it because I don't listen to that much modern pop anymore? Well, ever, but especially now when I don't have older sisters to dominate the TV. And there are times where it really, really helps music, that kind of like thop kind of drumming. It adds a lot of depth to songs like The Great Unknown, Tina, and Satellite. I think they work really well. And for me, those songs are probably the highlights of the album. Tina is one of the big. Yes. Tina is one of the more rockier songs on the album. The electronic parts feel more old school to Shikari. It feels like they're borrowing a lot of like the electronic ideas and electronic sounds that we're using for Take the Skies and Common Dreads. It's not a bad thing. Those albums are a lot of fun. Satellites has like this really brilliant chorus, so, like the bursts of electronics with the drums. Rue sounds great. Initially I want to call it a swell, and I love me some swells. Swelling just gets me. But it's not quite that. It's just like a peak of the wall of sound, and I think it just works really well. Another song I want to point out is like the two-part Marionettes song. I just think that's really good. I think a lot of Shikari songs, I always see them as like a collection of songs rather than one fluid album, and this is the same. This is a few songs for me. But going from Marionettes, like the part 1 to part 2, obviously they're next to each other. It could have just been one big song. I completely understand why they split it into two, because most modern music fans won't want to listen to like a standalone 9-minute song. But if you split it in half, I can't comment. I fucking hate overlong songs, so hypocrite. For me though, Marionettes is very cinematic. It feels very dramatic, and it feels like there's a big event happening with the song. To me, it's a fantastic showcase of their electronic side. Fuck, I need to find a better word for electronic. And I feel like it does that better than anything the Spark did. Like I said, I quite liked the Spark when it came out. It's filtered off a little bit for me. But if you want to show off what Shikari can do with all their electronic stuff, I feel like Marionette's two-parter has done it a lot better than what Spark did. Definitely, though, the star for me for the album is The Great Unknown, the opener of the album. Again, I'd still say it's very Sleep Token-y in its drums. I'm going to use the example of Sugar purely because it came on my shuffle the other day, and I fucking love that song. But the way the drums hit, and like it's a smash of drums, and then it's the rhythm, and it's a smash of drum, and then it's the rhythm, remind me a lot of that, a lot of Sleep Token stuff in that regard. And yeah, I just don't know if it is like a modern thing now to have, anytime you've got a pop influence on a rock record, or just pop in general, that's what they do to add a bit more depth and add a bit of character to the music, that like thop, apparently, as I want to describe it. Yeah, Great Unknown is a fucking belter of a song. I had really high hopes on the album based on just that. Because the first song I listened to from, because obviously they released a bunch of singles beforehand, Dreamers Hotel, I wasn't keen on. That was the only one I listened to, because I tried to listen to one, and then as soon as they say, our album's coming out at this date, I try to stop listening to what comes after. I want to get the whole piece. Yeah, Dreamers Hotel at first I thought was quite... It was just there. It felt like a B-side from Flash Full of Colour. It's a song that's grown on me since, but yeah, going into The Great Unknown, I thought, fucking hell, this is the song. And I think it did eventually get released as a single, but this should have been like the lead. This should have been a song to get everyone talk about, holy shit, this new Shikari song coming out, and like go from there. But personal preference at the end of the day, isn't it? So yeah, Tina, Satellite, the Marionette duology, The Great Unknown. For me, they are the high spots of the album. There are a lot of stinkers on the album. It's, again, with a lot of Shikari albums that I've listened to, it's very much of I pick out songs that I like as opposed to listen to it as one fluid album. Modern Living feels like it was meant to be the non-single single. In a few years' time, where people talk about Shikari's back catalogue, and when you get to Nothing Is True and Everything's Possible, they'll say, oh, that had Modern Living on it. And I feel like, yeah, this is a song that the album was meant to be remembered for. And I think a lot of it comes down to the like main chorus line, or the main line was repeated. we're alcoholics drinking gin and tonics. What does that fucking mean? For me, I think it means like we just crave, like we, mankind, humans, just crave ruining our own planet, but we're also using our privilege, I guess, just to drink gin, ignore it. It's a very big political statement if it is along that sort of thing, but I just think it feels so. I don't want to say corporate because even I know Shikari are not a very corporate band. They're very political. They're very forward thinking. And a lot of respect for them for that. But it's a type of phrase. We're alcoholics drinking gin and tonics. I can see it printed on a line at River Island, or I don't know. It's going to be on like Instagram and Twitter bios for like super edgy person. Yeah, I just feel like it's very, very. It fits a certain kind of person, which is cruel. A cruel thing to say, but pretty darn accurate in my opinion. So yeah, I think Modern Living is just a bit of a. Ruru's always been very like hit and miss with his lyrics. Anyway, sometimes he is brilliant. And then other times you think someone in like year 7 has read The Tempest for the first time and wants to be the next Shakespeare, and that's Rue. So I think it was a bit of a doozy this time. The King, I feel like, is trying to cram their entire discography into one song. In the run up to the album, Rue went on record in an interview somewhere and said, This is the one that I found with Pastor and Mate. Like, you don't know Shikari, this is where you start. And I feel, for the most part, that is a bang-on statement. I think this album encapsulates the band sound up to and including Common Dreads. I think like Take to the Skies is a bit too intense to be represented here in Nothing's True. But yeah, the rest of the album, I feel like it does take parts of, even like parts of Common Dreads, because that was when they was finally started, well, not finally, it was only the second album, but that was, Common Dreads is where they started putting a lot more alt-rock melodies into their post-hardcore, and that eventually evolved into Flash Flood, and then, I assume, Minesweep. Yeah, Common to Minesweep, I feel like it's like a very natural progression of their sound, and then you get to Spark, and then my idea of how they should be released, but blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I feel like the album does a great job of representing parts of everything from Common all the way up to the Spark. But then you get to the King, and it feels like they're trying to do all that into one tight song. How long is it? It doesn't really feel like it's a long song anyways. I think it's true. The King. It's less than 3 minutes of 10 years worth of music. And I listen to it, I'm reminded of songs like Kel Surprise, Thumper, Snake Pit, Gandhi Mate Gandhi. And yeah, I just feel like it's a lot happening at once. And yeah, I just think it's a bit toilet. Crossing the Rubicon, I wrote it down, and now that I think about it, I think it's a pretty harmless song, actually. It's just very much not for me. I think it's a very twee, very, very sweet kind of pop rock song. Sort of thing where I can see it on If We Ever Have a Summer, fucking ice drinks or ice cream, or you hear it at like beach parties, that sort of thing. And that's fine for a song, it's just not for me. So I think I rescind me slagging off Crossing Rubicon. I just think it's a song that's very much not for me. Interestingly, the song that's most interesting to me is Elegy for Extinction. Shikari have built a career on doing weird and wonderful things. They are, as much as they're very hit and miss with myself. I don't know. They've got the people who really like Shikari, really fucking like Shikari. They have always been known to take chances and explore different things. That's why they've not only are they one of the few bands from that electronic era that's still going, they're adapting electronica to fit around what's popular at the time. So they had a phase of drum and bass. They had a phase of rave. They had a phase of dubstep. With Spark, I feel like they went more the like electro pop and synth pop stuff that was big at the time. And despite all that, I honestly feel like Elegy for Extinction is probably the most out there song they've written. How long is it again? It's just shy of 4 minutes, and it's just one big orchestra. It's an orchestral. It's a classical orchestra piece of music. Fuck. And I don't know who it's for. Like they've had like the interlude tracks in album before. I think they have one on here, don't they? Isn't it? Well, they Reprise 3. They've got a song called Apocalypse Anonymous. Main theme from B minor. That's another reason why I feel like Apocalypse is meant to be the big catch from this album. And they have, I can't remember what it's called on the Spark, but they have it on Spark. They've got like a 2-parter thing on Common Dread as well. It's like A and B. That one will bug me. It'll take me ages to find the one on the Spark. Havoc A and Havoc B. They're like interlude songs as well, but they are electronic music. Even the one on Spark is very much it's long, drawn out notes. It's very ambient in that regard. But I always feel like it fits better to what Shikari do because they are rooted in electronica. Whereas having a full orchestration, I don't know if their core audience is really going to notice or care about an orchestral song. Yeah, like I have friends at work who are massive Shikari fans, and I don't think they're going to give a shit about a bit of orchestral music in the middle of it. I don't know what kind of fan would be going for that kind of song. Interlude, I know people who like interlude tracks because there's bind albums together, fair enough. I just don't think for Shikari a song like Elegy for Extinction is what they should be doing. Well, no, that sounds horrible. Never, not what they should not be doing. I just don't think it fits. I just don't think it. I don't know who it's for. I don't know who's gonna listen to Nothing's Possible and think, or Nothing Is True, and think, listen to it as an album. It bound the album together. It made it one fluid piece of music. So, yeah, I just thought it was like a really weird one. And of all things Shikari did, this was the thing that really made me think that it just does not belong. And there's a lot going on in this album. Yeah, again, for the album in general, there's a lot of like good songs now. I said before, The Great Unknown, Tina, Satellites. I like The Marionettes, Duology. Pressure's On was pretty decent as well. But yeah, it's just their greatest hits for me. I feel like I'm just trying to think. Was I ever like a massive fan of Shikari? I think like they've always been like greatest hits. Like they come on rock nights, or even like a lot of the music from Flash Flood to Spark pops up on indie nights as well now. You know the words, you're singing along, you have a great time. And I've seen them live, and they are fucking great live. I just feel like with this, it's just just a few songs here and there. The whole album, there's things on here for me, basically. I don't need the whole album. I've got what I want from it. I've got what I necessarily need from it. And yeah, I think Shikari fans are going to go batshit over it because I feel like they've got the kind of following now which are always going to love what they do. Like I said, there's bits on the album where it goes too much at one time. There's bits I don't think just really fit in right. It reminds me a lot of Waiting for Morning to Come by We Are the Ocean. Yeah, because that was the album that had loads of interlude tracks, and the songs on there were pretty decent, but there's so much interlude. Like, for me, I'm always impatient, so I just feel like To listen as one big beat of music, yeah, okay, but then when you spend more time waiting for the songs to start than you do, like taking it all in, it can be done well, but I just don't think they did it right, and I think it's the same here. They're trying to really piece together like one fluid bit of music, and yeah, I just don't think it's worked as well as I think they hoped it would. But like I said, there's a couple like really decent songs on there. I'll still rep for the Great Unknown. That's a fucking belter of a song. And there are songs on here which are pretty harmless fun, and there's some on there which are pretty harmless cack. There you go. That's me. It's the sixth album from Enter Shikari. It's called Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible. I'm still happy when people say like names from British bands, and one of the first ones they say is Enter Shikari. I'm not going to be upset by that. I feel like Shikari are still quite a nice band and quite a nice name to have associated with like English or British music. I feel like very different likes and dislikes compared to a general Shikari output. But there we go.